Now we need to get on with a very, very serious subject, and that is Singapore. Only a week ago, I reported here on World Series News as late as September the 27th, where a catastrophe was emerging in Singapore. Just 6 days later, and that catastrophe is worsening terribly. So, to do a quick recap for those of you who didn't catch that story, and you can catch it on worldseriesnews.com.au, here on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you see this video, you can check out that story and others. However, let's go now and have a look at the figures. They're frightening. So, a breakdown of the figures here in Singapore are these. The first deaths in Singapore occurred on the 20th of March 2020, where 2 deaths occurred. That was after just 108 cases of COVID. Fast forward exactly 4 months to July 20 of 2020, and the statistics are updated as these. There were now 48,035 cases, resulting in 27 deaths. This meant that Singapore was averaging a caseload of 400 a day, which averaged of a death rate of 0.21 deaths per day. So roughly every 5 days, they would lose a person to COVID, but they were getting 400 cases a day. So for every 2,000 cases that were occurring, they would have 1 death. Let's fast forward an entire year to July 20, 2021. This is now 7 months of no vaccine and 5 months of the vaccine being administered. So in Singapore, at July 20 of 2021, approximately 57% of the country had now been vaccinated. They had now had 63,621 cases. They had now 36 deaths. And now with the increases, it was showing that the case numbers had dropped significantly from 400 per day down to just 43 per day. However, that rate was well sustained in the period from July to January before vaccine rates had even started. So the social distancing and the safety mechanisms were working quite well in Singapore before vaccine. The death rate was as low as 0.02. So 1 person would die every 50 days during this period. Now, here's where it gets complicated. If you jump ahead from July 20, 2021 to September 27, 2021, and this was the period where we did our last report just a week ago, the case numbers had increased in just 9 weeks from 63,621 to a whopping 89,539 cases. This meant that the caseload increase had jumped from 43 per day as late as July 20 of this year to 376 per day in just the 9 weeks from July 20 of this year. The deaths had also increased from 36 deaths to 80 deaths. So in the first 16 months of COVID for Singapore, they had only 36 deaths. In the following 9 weeks, they had 44 deaths, and the daily rate of deaths had increased to 0.63 deaths per day, or 2 people dying every 3 days, up from 1 in every 50 days. Now, at October 3, 2021, with the 82% double jab in effect in Singapore, that is 82% of that country's population of 5.93 million people have now been double vaccinated. So in the last week, case numbers in Singapore have jumped from 89,539 to 103,843. The average daily case number has jumped in the last week from 376 to 2,384. The deaths in the last week alone are 37. There has been as many deaths in Singapore in the last week as there was in the entire first 16 months of COVID. The daily death rate in Singapore now is 6.2. 6.2 people per day are dying from COVID in Singapore with a vaccine rate of 82%. This is up from just 0.02 deaths per day as late as July 20, 2021 not 10 weeks ago. Can you believe what's happening in Singapore? These numbers are catastrophic and they are only headed in one direction. Doctors in Singapore are only talking about one thing, and that's how soon can they administer a third booster shot and mimic or copy what's going on in Israel, which is also a looming disaster. Stay tuned for more updates from World Series News.